Hello, my children. No, that's stupid. Let me get this fixed up. There we go. Now you can see the real me. And you know what? I don't need headphones either. And like I use the microphone. So let's talk about authenticity. Uh, this video is going to talk about several things that I think are important. And in order to keep some sort of structure, I'm going to do a little bit more reading today just so I can follow the script. I know I tend to ramble on, but I do write in a way that most people talk. So you shouldn't lose too much of me just through me reading. However, this entire video is all about the importance of coming through um, from where you are within and not putting on a mask of who the world wants you to be. So, without further ado, let's get into this video because I think this speaks to some very important parts and I want you guys to follow along with me. Thank you very much and let's begin. So let's begin with the intro. What exactly inspired this video? Well, I didn't watch Critical Drinker's video of the new Captain America New World Order. Frankly, I think I've seen and talked enough about him. The movie probably not great if you were to believe most of the thumbnails on YouTube. Most people aren't exactly fans of it. Are you really starting to shovel the moment I began recording my video? Uh, but yeah, most of the internet didn't seem to like it, including Charlie Moist Critical. Huge fan of him myself. I'll talk about him if I need to later. But right now, I just want to talk about how most people on the internet are on agreement that it's not exactly one of Marvel's best works. Well, the reason I talk about this is I actually do enjoy movie reviews from most YouTubers who approach film with nuance and an actual love for the craft. There's people like Shifterless Productions, Filmento, Savage Books, Sarcastic Chorus. There's a lot of them out there. Even like to some extent, there's some more sillier ones like Alex Myers, Pointless Hub, especially if you like Halo and Transformers. But he talks a lot about like all kinds of different movies as well. The more catastrophic Michael Bay esque stuff. But sometimes you like something that's a little bit more entertaining, sometimes a little bit more analytical, but just critiques that have some sort of an objective to get to rather than some fake reactionary outrage. And despite my personal lack of watching the movie itself, honestly, I used to watch so much Marvel stuff, including uh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fantastic show. If there's anything from Marvel which I do recommend you watch, it's the ones Netflix made with like Daredevil, Punisher, stuff like that, and Agents of Shield, which is unfortunately no longer canon. At some point, it's kind of deviated, but I think it's some of Marvel's best work, and it's so underrated. Uh, but yeah, I just gave up watching more Marvel stuff. But yet, I did watch, despite my lack of interest in the movie, Birdman's review of the movie. This one here. Um, and if you know, I did talk a little bit about him in my previous video about how he goes a lot after people like Critical Drinker and a lot of these other grifters. But I want to touch on something a little bit more on why exactly I kind of started liking him, even though I just kind of like found him recently and have been kind of haphazardly watching some of his videos. I think he did some good jobs with some of the things he says. So I said, you know what? Let me see what he says about his own personal take on the movie instead of how he's trying to decipher and surgically analyze and dismember somebody else's argument about the movie. And I won't show you the video. You're more than welcome to watch his video. I'm not trying to, steal reactions, or get off my chair and have you guys watch it and then come back. Uh, I want to talk about something I want to talk about. So let's go and actually talk about why exactly I bring him up. Because this might be the last time I bring him up on my channel, but I'm doing that purely out of respect. I'm not doing that to say I will never talk about him ever again, because again, I respect his work a lot. So unlike people like Drinker, I think Birdman really understands comics. He calls out grifters who pretend to be comic purists, uh, but most of these guys didn't exactly read the source material, right? There's a lot of stuff online where people are like, wow, Marvel is just destroying this show. Why can't they just stick to the comics? But then, Birdman comes in and, he recently made a video about how much he likes the trailer for the new Fantastic Four movie, took out his encyclopedia, and is like, wow, look, the thing looks exactly the way he's supposed to.
This is what he's supposed to look like. Okay? For those of you who do not know, his early appearance is right there. This is what the thing looks like. If you're just like unaware of what the thing's supposed to look like. Now compare that to what is on the screen. It is perfect. Perfect, I tell you. Now there's one thing I noticed here is that when looking at the group, I have a feeling that some people are going to look at Ben Grimm and go, well, he's too short. So the thing about the thing is that he actually started out as 6 foot tall. So he's the correct height for when he first came out. Gray hair on the side, which is awesome. But yeah, like people who were having issues with Pedro Pascal as Reed, and they were like, oh, he doesn't look like Reed. Well, I pulled up Mr. Fantastic for you in the encyclopedia. Now, look at him. He has so many different appearances, okay?
So you can definitely tell that he's someone who actually gets it. And that's when I started to realize it's not even about the movie. Again, I haven't seen it. It's the reason I'm making this video is about recognizing good versus bad faith criticism. So I don't want this channel to be about takedowns and stuff like that. Birdman already does an amazing job at that. I want this to be more constructive. If I was to just kind of constantly try to bash people like Critical Drinker, I think it could suffer the problem of maybe just pushing him further down into the web, and or like the hole he's digging himself into. And I want to try to help people be better, make better of themselves. So let's talk about Birdman, and then we can go from there. Talk about a continuity error. I keep having to put my headphones on and off between clips to make sure it's sounding all quite right. Anyway, so in the previous section, I talked a little bit about his knowledge of comics, and I kind of want to exemplify that by showing you exactly what I mean, because I want to delve a little bit deeper into what exactly I'm talking about regarding not necessarily Birdman's review of the knowledge of what he's talking about, but more importantly, the lack of knowledge of the people who are trying to push a certain message, who may not necessarily be expert on the thing, not regarding fantastic. I mean, like an abstract thing of uh, the thing they're talking about. So, uh, that's how sometimes you can tell a unsuccessful grifter from a successful one, because most of the time they lack such an lack of understanding of what they're talking about, that they sometimes need to be pushed to help them. Hey, if you're trying to push a certain message, you should probably know a little bit about this. Here, I'll give you some hints. So they sound a little bit more like they're coming from a more educated perspective, even when they don't actually know anything about the thing they're talking about. They're just trying to push the thing back from a bird's eye view without necessarily exactly knowing what this thing is and why necessarily it's good or bad. So sometimes you just need that assistance. So here's the clip.
These films that have been kind of peppered throughout the past 10, 20 years that are now, I think, just starting to make more of an impact. I'm just trying to think of other stuff. Like, for example, well,
Battle Royale.
yes, Battle Royale.
Psst. That's what a grifter looks like. A person that doesn't know what he's talking about, but pretends to be an expert on a controversial topic. For my next trick, I'll ask Eric July about Amazing Fantasy number 15.
Dude, have you read Amazing Fantasy number 15?
All right, this isn't a gotcha. Can you please answer the question pertaining to Ike?
It kind of fucking is. You're talking about being a comic book fan.
Can you please answer the question?
Holy shit, do you know what Amazing Fantasy 15 is?
There are plenty of people that don't
Do you know what Amazing Fantasy 15 is?
Cool. So now we talked about this, and in my next video, I'll talk a little bit more about, his legacy, because there's people that are, copycats, seeing how lucrative a grift can be and kind of trying to do the same thing. People like Angry Pants Gaming, which I talked a little bit about. My next video, which I recorded 5 months ago, we'll talk more about that. And there's worse examples too, unfortunately, which I've come to realize. Here's a video of that.
Yeah, and P.S. If Pedro Pascal is playing Mr. Fantastic, I just want to ask, what's he really fantastic at? Cleaning houses or jumping over the border? And if you got a problem, go complain to your boyfriend.
Nah, that is crazy.
When you say I'm scared of black people, newsflash, you illiterate troglodyte. Everybody is. And if you can believe it, they managed to race swap another redhead from comic books. They managed to jump in there and turn them black. So after reading...
The way he said it. Now it's time to make fun of his content. So as you guys could see, this is a channel that's pretty much, everything is woke. Woke shit. Woke trash. Everything is woke.
And I mean, wow. I gotta hand it to this kid. I haven't seen this level of unfiltered racism since the old Xbox 360 days. Here's the thing. Full honesty, because this is really what this video is about, is just me trying to be honest with you guys. I personally don't really give a shit about comic books. I don't really read most of them anyways, especially not the Marvel comics, comic book comics, stuff like that, superheroes, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. I don't give a shit. They usually just make a new universe every other month anyways, with like completely different backstories and how things tie into each other. So I couldn't care less. Most of the comics I read was a long time ago. Shit like Tintin, Calvin and Hobbes, Bone. Holy shit, I love Bone so much. If you don't know what Bone is, you are missing out. Please go back in time to when you were in high school. Find your old Scholastic book fair pamphlet and get yourself some Bone comics. Or better yet, I think you can probably find that online somewhere. Because man, is that some... To think of it, some really weird horrific stuff too. The point is, you don't have to read comics to engage with movies honestly. Movies are art, and art is often subject to everyone's personal interpretation of what it really means, right? Some arts are just pretty to look at. Some art, is supposed to make you think, and some art is lazy, right? A lot of people are like, why is this art worth millions of dollars? Anyone can just, take a canvas, make it blue, and just put like a yellow stripe in it, you know. But no one walks into an art gallery and starts screaming that I don't even know my art. I don't know, like a Monet isn't like a Rambart, you know. Different artists have different kind of art, but for some people, sometimes they just think that every movie has to cater to their exact tastes. Like oops, sorry, take this piece of artwork right here. Let me see if I can edit this. There we go. This, you know how I found this? Dumpster diving. I was just out at my previous place. I lived at a condo, just sorting out my recycling, making sure I put it in the right bins. And at the corner of my eye, I just saw some, like, I thought it was like a glass or something like that. Pulled it out. It's a photo within a glass frame, and then surrounding it is a wood frame. It's actually surprisingly pretty high quality, and I'm like, why would someone throw this out? And some of you guys may say it's derivative, right? Like, what's that one scene from Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative. That I love. I absolutely love.
That's just the air conditioner.
I don't know. I thought it was cool. It's certainly no displayed, but I think it's pretty cool. Better yet, when I went to Italy, I bought some pieces of artwork, and I don't exactly have a lot of money on me, but let's just say I got myself a copy of the Starry Night Sky. That's pretty cool, and this one's pretty good too. It's art. It may not be the original piece, but art is still art. I don't care. I think maybe if I try to help understand why I am putting so much emphasis on the quality of art and what it takes to actually make it, I can just kind of help kind of move to a position of everyone understanding each other a little bit more. So without further ado, let's move on to the next section. Wom. This is going to be the smallest section of this video, but I think it's going to be one of the most important. I think maybe it's time for me to kind of speak candidly from my own point of view. I think maybe I just see the importance of movies as art because maybe it's just how close I am to film and film production itself. Uh, just as someone who's going to need to edit this video later, but I work in Vancouver and we're constantly kind of compared to Hollywood in a lot of ways. Super expensive rent, super expensive cars, beautiful green, luscious mountains with a beautiful view of the ocean, and a lot and lot of movie productions. So I've been to these stages where they film a lot of shows, including the one where they filmed actually The Last of Us season 2. I actually know some of the people that worked on it. Not the actors, not the people that actually work on the stage, but I kind of did some like IT stuff for the accounting teams. So I can tell you the effort that goes into movie making, outside of just, cut, camera, action, all that shit. Um, so I'm not trying to say that uh, other people shouldn't have a position to talk about movies because they're not part of it. Everybody should be entitled to their opinion just as much as anybody else. We all have a platform to speak on YouTube if you want. Uh, no, some people have a bigger platform, but we're all, end of the day, uh, we all have one vote, right? Whether it's uh, through movie ticket or through voting for a politician. So I don't know. I think a lot of things just do have value. And, sue me. I'm a consumerist. I know. I'm a material girl. I love shopping.
You like my hair? Gee, thanks. Just bought it. I see it. I like it. I want it. I got it. Yeah.
And I know, I guess maybe that's why it just physically pains me so much when I see people smashing expensive gaming keyboards, taking like a brand new iPhone, and not a huge fan of Apple myself, but just, throwing it down a set of stairs and breaking it, or, trashing their M5 comps for views on the internet. And, you know, I work 10 times as hard as a lot of these people, and I probably make 1/10 of what a lot of these people make. I see videos of, these people that go into these companies who say, day in the life of a person that works in uh, big tech company this in the Silicon Valley. And it's just like, like this chick that hasn't worked a day in her life walks in like at 11 a.m., grabs free coffee and snacks, just like 5 minutes of answering emails, gets up, plays like the free like arcade they have access to, goes and gets a free lunch, and I'm like, what the hell? I didn't get any of that shit. Where's my, free stuff?
This is a day in my life as a LinkedIn employee. So here is me walking into the new building, and as you can see, it is so beautiful. I am in love. The attention to detail is amazing. And I stopped to get breakfast at the coffee bar right in front. I got a little croissant, a hot chocolate, and some other goodies right here. Here's some industrial portable chargers. LinkedIn has these vending machines everywhere. You can get all your electronic stuff. Awesome. And then here's me finally getting to work with my coworkers. There's a game room on every floor, which is so sick if you want to take a little 10-minute break and play some games. After working for about 4 hours, it was time for lunch, so I went down the steps to one of the first areas. What's cool about LinkedIn is they have so many cool options. Here's some ramen, some boba, there's a little pizza stop. And then on the other floor, there was some Mexican food, Indian cuisine, so much stuff to choose from. We decided to eat on the third floor outdoor patio, which provided some pretty awesome views. And for lunch today, I decided to go with some ramen, a piece of pizza, and some grapefruit lemonade. There's a snack room on every floor. And did I mention everything is free? All the snacks and food and drinks you see here is free for LinkedIn employees. It's crazy. I decided to get a little cookie and an acai bowl for a little 2 p.m. snack. A few of my coworkers had to leave, so I ended up working for the rest of the time until 5 p.m. on my own, but it was really nice.
But, all this just kind of ties into the whole outrage economy. People are no longer engaging with actual media anymore. They're just trying to farm engagement. Uh, let's talk about people like, especially my personal problem with modern influences like Logan Paul and shit like that. Um, we don't seem to celebrate the achievements of actual inventors, people who actually create something with their own hand. People seem to just peddle a mediocre pre-existing product under sometimes under a new name because the previous product that they were affiliated with had some sort of like a bad connotation for some reason. Not sure what reason that could be, but sometimes it's because there was no product to begin with last time. But this one, there's definitely a product. It's not a rug pull, trust me, bro. So to better understand why I'm talking about this in a video about movies and movie reviewers, let's go to the next section. So this next mini section is also important because I'm trying to build a foundation as I'm trying to build up towards something. And the reason I'm talking about this here is because I want to talk about lazy criticism. So Uh, Many years ago, I kind of just gave up on cinema sins. A lot of his sins are just stupid. Eating an apple. Oh, you're definitely a bad guy. A lot of the scenes that are just good. He just kind of adds a sin anyways, just because it's just his gimmick, right? One of the ones that perfectly example what I'm trying to say is the lap dancing, for example, where he's like, I'm not getting a lap dance in this scene, ding, and coincidentally, more than the critical drinker, someone that Birdman has an even bigger beef with actually is CinemaSins, and personally, I don't know why, because I haven't watched any of all these videos he has of uh what his problem with CinemaSins is, because Lord knows I have enough on my plate. My God, I'm a YouTube super user. I'm constantly on YouTube, way too much. Slop for the slot machine. Thank you, Susan. Uh, but yeah, I just kind of stopped watching him myself. Same reason as Critical Drinker. Um, I think at some point my pattern recognition brain started recognizing the pattern he's recognizing, and I started to kind of understand. Yikes, bro. I don't know if I'm starting to like the direction you're going.
The Jedi turned against me. Don't you turn against me?
I don't know you anymore. Anakin, you're breaking my heart. You're going down a path I can't follow.
Because of Obi-Wan.
Because of what you've done. What you plan to do. Stop. Stop now. Come back. I love you.
Liar!
And meanwhile, on the other hand, someone who I've started to get a lot of respect for once I found their channel was Cinema Wins. What I like about him is that this guy actually explains why a scene works. He's not just adding like a win to a scene because he liked it when Optimus went 1v5 and destroyed a bunch of Decepticons. When a scene works, a scene sometimes works on beyond just a level of what the human brain can just kind of think about and sees. Uh, and especially with someone like Cinema Wins, he kind of does some more research on what the director's vision for that scene was, and he kind of helps convey what it was that they're trying to achieve. And at a time when media literacy is an all-time low, I personally consider Cinema Wins an invaluable YouTuber and a critical role of someone who's trying to help increase media literacy in the world. A lot better than, leftist YouTube, BreadTube essayists talking about how media literacy is bad now because right wingers don't understand the news. So, you know what? Let's go into that a little bit. So from here on out, I'm going to go into a bit of a more shakier, a little bit more controversial part of the video. And I just want you guys to kind of have faith as we try to get through this section, and whatever possible misconceptions you might have about my personal politics, please try to hold off, and hopefully you'll understand as we get towards the later stage. As I can promise you, whatever you might think right now, you may be wrong about it. Just please have faith. So after watching a movie, sometimes I have this need to kind of like go to YouTube and try to kind of fill in some of the holes, some of the um, questions I have in my head of what exactly did I watch? What did I miss? What is there that I'm not necessarily piecing together? And better yet, what is it that I think I know, but I don't actually know? There's a lot, you know, but you don't know, you know? Um, because more often than not, you don't know what you don't know. Tongue twister aside, let me try to kind of help you guys understand what it is I'm talking about. Uh, so there's different kinds of people that talk about movies on YouTube. There's the 50 Easter eggs you missed watching this movie. And it's like, all these red circles with the arrows, and it's like, oh my god, there's this character like Mephisto coming to Scarlet Witch or whatever. And a lot of these things are just kind of like um, empty, just I wouldn't even say propaganda because it's not, but it's just leading into false hope for something that there's little to no chance of it ever being there. But by trying to point fingers at nothing, they will have the opportunity to just kind of take something that's a very recognizable name and bring people in, so they're like, hey, this is what you missed, and by watching my video you'll make sure that you know exactly what's happening. And a lot of them are fun, and sometimes I do actually miss something and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't catch that. That is a fun Easter egg. um but most of the time, the kind of people I'm really talking about are the video essayists I talked about in the earlier part of the video, when I was talking about, um, the kind of video essayists that talk about movies in a much more deeper sense. There's probably like a million people out there who've talked ad nauseum about Mm, Last of Us. No, not Last of Us. The Last Airbender, right? The old Avatar cartoon. And, there's really no limit to how much people can talk about that show, whether it's the change of Zuko, the change of Azula, the mixed martial art and how it taking different cultures and how each culture has its own martial art, but these are all bringing in stuff from science, whatever, man. It's still kind of fun to watch, and you do gain a lot of wisdom from a lot of these things. A lot of them can be slop, but there's some really good stuff out there too. Um, I will soon make a video personally about how much I love the TV show called The Bear, but honestly, as someone who lacked media literacy myself, is just going to be my surface level understanding of the show and why I personally like it. So, if once I ever make that, don't go in there thinking you're going to see something super insightful. It's just me talking about how much I like it. Um, but a lot of these things can get really interesting once you really sit down to kind of understand, as humans, there's so much more that uh, we can take from a lot of these pieces of media. For example, one thing that really upset me in high school as an English as a second language person, I uh, I never really understood the whole thing with the teacher and the book where it says, the curtains are blue, and the teacher asks, okay, class, what does the author mean when they're talking about the blue curtains? And I'm just sitting there dumbfounded, like, I don't know. Maybe they're fucking on sale at IKEA. What does that matter? But the teacher's like, oh, no, you don't understand. The blue is trying to symbolize the emotions of the. No, that's bullshit. Get out of here. People call me a schizo. What is that beautiful mind shit? Um, but growing up, I do kind of start to have a more of an understanding of where some of this stuff is coming from. So I'm gonna show you guys a video regarding the Batman. Two videos actually. The first one is from someone who has love for the craft, understands movies, and talks about how a lot of these things go way beyond what someone sees when they watch Batman, just put on a bat suit and starts punching people. So here's that video.
A character either remains iconic or gets adapted so many times that they lose their appeal. But with Batman, it's different. And I didn't choose these terms randomly. They're periods that followed one another in art history, each one being a counter-response to the previous period, following the pendulum theory. It's a totally different first impression, and if you think about it, it's almost like each version is a direct response to the previous one. If Burton's visual design is all about long expressive lines, and Nolan relies on harmonious and subtle circular shapes, while Snyder opts for more square forms, then Reeves brings in diagonals and triangles that add a sense of instability.
So you watch this video, right? And, it doesn't need to be said again, but it kind of does. No one really understands how each story is told differently, right? Everyone thinks they know the story of Batman. Oh, Bruce Wayne walked through the alley, his parents got shot, turned into Batman. But each artist, each director has their own method, their own style, you know? Tim Burton, we all know his style. He went baroque. He made a lot of money doing it. Nolan has a more neoclassical approach, right? Romantic with Matt Reeves, realistic, um, all this stuff. There's like when I watched this, I was like, whoa. See, that is media literacy, you know? Um, Now, speaking of Batman, let's go watch somebody else try to use Batman to talk about media literacy. Because it took me a while to find this video, and God, is it me or has YouTube has gotten so much worse at helping you find videos? It's awful now. But there's this YouTuber who does this 1.5 video essay on media literacy, and even she has a hard time understanding what media literacy is. And she brought on like 12 people to kind of help lecture her and the audience. So here's her video.
And get us making like movies for grown-ups again.
I really like this, but I also think that we shouldn't necessarily assume that even the most straightforward training wheel movies are immune from poor media literacy. Because, for example, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It took me probably like 8 years and like half a dozen viewings before I understood that that is literally Harvey Dent's character arc in the film. Like it's not subtext, it's text. And I have a graduate degree in English. I have pretty good media literacy, I think.
Weird video, right? I mean, come on. Even someone as dumb as me understood that part. And maybe it's just kind of me being really young and adaptable. Maybe that's not the right word. What's that word thing from Montessori about kids being sponges? But, when I was young, I was more kind of emo than edgy. And, the whole wanting to die before you become a villain really hit hard. Because I want to be loved when I die. I want people to miss me. I don't want to be remembered as, oh God, that guy. I'm glad he's gone. Especially in a post Luigi world. So she has this panel of 12 people, and Lord knows I'm not exactly a fan of some of the people she has on here. And as soon as I saw some of those names, I knew that it's mostly going to be about how the right is to blame for people not being media literate because the right are all liars, and it's not going to be a real criticism of art or media literacy. And all that stuff. And you know what? In their fairness, they do exemplify exactly why when media literacy is low, people stop seeing media as art and they start treating uh, media as political weapons. So at least they understand that part because they sure seem to like to utilize it. So as I said in the beginning, this video is supposed to be constructive. It's not supposed to be about bashing the left or right, nor is it supposed to be about me being left or right. Uh, a lot of politics seems to become a team sport of how much you can cheer on your own team and downplay whenever your own team does something bad.
Denims has a habit of defending or downplaying the actions of very awful people, and that's due to this team sports mentality. If someone's left-leaning, and better yet, trans, then she has to make them look as innocent as possible. She's been pretty upfront about her bias, even saying this during her Keffel stream.
My perspective is, I don't like to spend my time going after other people that are on the left, right? And that's just because I think my time is better spent making fun of people on the right.
The thing is, with right wing grifters, especially, they kind of make it especially obvious. You know, I think one good example is The Boys. I admit the later seasons do get a little, I guess I already use this word, but derivative, right? It was a pretty good show, and I still liked, every season so far. Um, but so did everyone, except until the very last season. The right really started to hate what exactly the show was kind of unmistakably trying to tell them because it became a little too obvious the show is mocking them. And I mean, in defense of the show, have you seen Outside? It's kind of hard to parody that. Uh, so suddenly they kind of woke up to the show. No pun intended. Wait, they're making fun of us? They always have been. Uh, the left has its own grifters too. No assumption. So, you can call it visual signaling too, but that just makes it two different things that the left would be guilty of. Left wing influencers are kind of exactly like the right. It just when it benefits them, they believe they have the moral authority. So it's fine when they call for violence against uh, a power they don't like, but it's bad when someone on the right does it. There's a lot of that. I won't get too much into it, but the false sense of authority is dangerous to our democracy.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Dangerous to our democracy. Take Gamergate, for example. It's a movement purely on emphasizing the importance of ethics in journalism. And, you hear me saying that, you're like, oh my God, he's one of those. And there's probably a very good reason you probably think that, because whatever you think those are, I can promise you I'm not that. But there's a reason why you've been programmed to think that way. Because journalism is a very important part of the world we live in, especially with certain wars happening in certain parts of the world. And let's just say some wars have been especially brutal and have been considered the war on journalists, and that's abhorrent. Uh, but in regards to Gamergate, it's supposed to be about a fair review, not based on sleeping with the journalist, not based on access journalism, but when the power of control is within a specific, has a leniency or bias towards a specific part of the population, things start to kind of get out of control, right? Right now, people are saying all of the media is right wing, but they don't understand that a lot of establishment media, especially Hollywood, has been very, very left sided, which is why a lot of people, possibly, again, this isn't a video on politics or the presidency and all that stuff, but it is important to talk about because it's all leading towards the same things. It's all connected, man. Uh, so the media has the power to kind of control what people are seeing, and it has the power to kind of control it and smear the movement as something is not. They see that journalists are being attacked for, not being ethical, and, quite frankly, as the video is about, being grifters. It and just saying, "Oh, Gamergate," that's when gamers are sexist to journalists or whatever. No, it has nothing to do with that. Just a lot of journalists these days have lost all credibility, and it's all on their own actions. And when journalists have such vitriolic language and hatred for the consumer, it's no surprise that they're gonna get all this hate and backlash back. And then you're gonna have things like go woke, go broke, and all this other crap, and none of it matters. And I'm gonna talk about that. Why exactly none of this stuff matters, but we've all been played for fools. I'll just put it that way. We have all been played for fools. We, as individuals, are not to blame for what happened regarding who won a specific presidency. We're not to blame for, the wars that are going on in the world. We're not to blame for economics. We're certainly not to blame for, like the healthcare industry. Those are things that are being put onto us as humans. It is a bipartisan thing where everyone knows, the healthcare industry is in shambles. Yet, and like I'm Canadian, so I'll just put it there. But this does extend past politicians. So, I guess you could call him a politician. Let's do a quick talk about Elon. So he does a Nazi salute, and it's disgusting behavior, but I'll call it what it is. It was a Nazi salute. But instead of apologizing, he doubles down, right? You know who else said something that was disgusting and decided to double down instead of apologizing? Rogan. Beast? Uh, but it's only bad when Elon does it because he's a white supremacist, but Rogan is okay to do it because she's allegedly Arab. Or as she calls it, it's not Arab, but whatever. She doesn't represent all brown people, especially not when she says Palestinians shouldn't accept donations from white people. Like, her entire career is dependent on donations from white people, right? It's stupid. But we can talk about more examples too, because this is important when talking about these kinds of things. I know I'm getting a little bit on a tangent, but I am going in a specific direction, which is why I gave you guys the earlier discretion. Please stick with me. Peter Pie. I know. Hold on. He was on fire, under fire for something he had nothing to do with. They pinned a specific tragedy on him, despite him having nothing to do with it. He tried to distance himself with his own motto of subscribe to PewDiePie. He just stepped away from YouTube entirely. He quiet quit YouTube, and now he's on his being a really good father figure era, which Lord knows a lot of the people that aren't exactly fans of him are lacking in that department. But, a lot of political commentators are upset with him, and to this day, never let him get away with it as if he ever did. As if he ever did.
You can't keep getting away with it! He can't keep getting away with it.
It's kind of hard to punish someone for misbehaving on your platform uh, when you're forcing all your employees to sing happy birthday to him because he's the biggest uh, person on that platform. But a lot of disingenuous people still to this day say, oh, PewDiePie, he hates Indian people because he went after a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like, I'm sorry, what? Here, you want to talk about multi-billion-dollar corporations? Okay, Sundar Pichai, I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, CEO of Google, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, Shantu Narain, CEO of Adobe. I'm making up this list as ending up on one. Talk about poetic irony right there. See, these people aren't hated because they're Indian. Uh, they're hated because they're all CEOs. And this list of people I just named, I didn't just Google them to find out who's the CEO of this. It was actually from a person I was talking to on Discord who, when asked if he was Indian, he responded with, unfortunately. So I asked like, why would he behave that way? Because a whole self hating Indian trope is so pathetic. I told him that it's just anti-Indian propaganda, and that's really what it is. There's a lot of anti-Indian people hate, and you know, I think that's just how propaganda works. The truth is, PewDiePie doesn't hate Indians. You know, that song "Disingenuous Liberals" used to point out of context. They always leave out the "I love my Indian bros from Bombay to Bangladesh."
I'm sorry about the memes, you're the best. I love my Indian bros from Bombay to Bangladesh. I'll take on all the world for you, I'm a heavy hitter.
And then they always point to the part about the Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I'm a blue-eyed white dragon while you're just dark magician.
As if, like, a bunch of fictional Yu-Gi-Oh cards is the same thing as actual cities where actual people from India live. Like, come on, the blue shirt kid, well, he's actually a Fed. Who knew, right? I actually have a person to talk about. I will talk about this guy later because honestly, he does make a good video. I'm not kind of criticizing his video of PewDiePie because I think he's a grifter. I think, it's actually a good video to watch, and I am planning on maybe adding a segment to my videos to talk about channels I recommend. And originally, I wanted to talk about this guy as someone who I thought made a good point until I started to see his PewDiePie points, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, Chief. That's what grifting is. A lot of these people aren't getting their opinions of PewDiePie based on their own understanding of it. Watching PewDiePie, and then if you still don't like him, that's fine. It's not for everyone, but at least you're coming from an educated standpoint, which is what I said at the very early part of the video about Birdman and Critical Drinker and people who know comics, know where these characters are from, and those who don't and are pretending just to say, Marvel is woke because they're going off script. In which comic is this from? Disney? Why are you implementing this crap? But that's really, you can see that outside of just Disney and comic books. It goes way beyond that, which is why this video is about authenticity and grifters, not just about Marvel comics and movies and stuff. So, I see too much of, I have never seen, blank, but I know enough about him to hate him. Cause, speaking of which, Hassan is also a victim of this. He has a lot of fair criticisms, but he has a lot of unfair ones too. So here's a question for you. If tomorrow someone does something really horrible, and it's in Hassan's name. How should the left react? Forget about the right, right? Like we know how they will react. How should the left react? Should they say, "Oh, Hassan has nothing to do with him. It's a smear campaign, bad faith, yada yada yada," or the more likely scenario? Because trust me, I've seen what people talk about him, and that includes a lot of people on the left. It's gonna be, yeah, I'm not surprised that Hassan Abihed would do such a heinous thing. It's kind of on brand for his community. Do you start to begin to see how this works? How dangerous this is, especially for someone like him? This is the kind of community that the Hassan orbiters, very specific reason I'm phrasing it that way, um, have fostered, right? Noah Samson, Denims, Frogan, these people, they're playing a very dangerous game. And with Hassan's history, it's not going to end very well for him, right? Again, and this isn't trying to attack Hassan and his community. I think he has a fragile ego and needs to be taken down a peg. But he does get a lot of unfair rep and he has potential. I think he just kind of like sometimes needs to kind of calm himself down from his anger because he's very short tempered and just kind of to come from a place of understanding of other people's perspective, not just raise out on people he doesn't like, call them uh, a saltine hog with an HVAC business, and think he won the marketplace of ideas. Debate lord. Let's move on. I talked enough about this guy. It's not about him. Next section. How funny is it that my next section is about absurd outrage as I am coming off an absurd fit of outrage? I'm not really the kind of person to get angry. That was just kind of like a pre-written rant. But I still thought it was kind of cute. But let's go on and continue about this section. Because I talked quite a bit about controversial figures. So let's talk about someone we all know and love. Because there's something important in the beauty of it all. A great example of a non grifting critic, moist critical. I pick on him a lot because I personally have loved him for a very long time. I've been subscribed to him for like well over 10 years. I think it might be possible to confirm that somehow. But the man loves his absurd creator customization. Blue face, lizard skin, one leg shorter than the other, face that looks like a melting candle. He has some really weird character designs out there. He really likes to push that character slider to the extremes to make the most weird and outlandish stuff out there. And I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into that. But unlike other outrage grifters, he kind of enjoys things for what they are. And that's really the key difference for him. The reason I bring him up as a segue into my final section, one that kind of arguably is the most important, is the inconsequential, highly lucrative outrage culture. I talk about his Nico drama because, it's obvious he wanted to kind of move away from that. Now he just kind of does like stories on the internet that have little to nothing to do with any other YouTubers. So why is this important now to talk about when talking about left versus right wing YouTube GriftTubers? Well, Charlie liked to push the character customization to some really entertaining.
That looks just like Mr. Krabs. What the fuck? I swear to God, I didn't work on SpongeBob or anything. This is uncanny. Holy shit. Someone do a side by side. You wouldn't be able to spot the difference. You would honestly think Mr. Crab was a DLC character for Soul Calibur 6. Holy shit.
And he may not realize it, and this is very much unintentional on his part, but it shows that there's no limit to human creativity. That part is intentional. We have always wanted to kind of display ourselves to the world. It's a kind of a sort of free expression. Games like um, Fallout, Skyrim. You have all these character sliders. A lot of MMOs have these too, right? Like multiplayer games, like um, World of Warcraft, RuneScape to some extent. And a lot of these characters in video games, they're kind of like they serve as a canvas uh to say to the world, here world, this is how I want to present myself. And sometimes people like Charlie like to have a little bit more fun with it. Some people just press random and just continue on with the tutorial. Everybody has their own fun with it. Um, but they're always kind of like arguably um, half the fun of playing games is kind of like play around with character sliders. I think that's probably one of the main reasons people play The Sims, right? Um, because honestly, the face and the body and stuff like that doesn't really matter anyways. Most people just wear armor 99% of the time. Not many people walk around, half naked, topless while trying to go fight the what's that one dragon in the one island in RuneScape? Shoot. The more in depth the character customization is, the more fun it is for people to just kind of like have fun with it, do something crazy, especially in a online game, where you have to team up with a bunch of people and try to fight like this angle, maybe do like a boss raid. You want to team up with your friends, and some people try to, they don't really care about what their character looks like. They'll put on like the most mismatched outfit, rainbow socks with runite pants, but a mithril body armor because they haven't unlocked the ability to wear rune chest plate yet. Um, and then the other guy, at the risk of having slightly less stats, prefers to match the entire outfit.
But now I'm trophied up, I'm saying like bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on, you wouldn't understand.
Something I always say is that fashion is pain. And maybe that's just me on copium because I have these really uncomfortable pieces of clothes, including these one shoes that uh, I have flat feet, so it's kind of hard for me to kind of like walk, especially when the shoes aren't good enough and don't have a soft cushion. When I'm walking through like a mall floor, I may as well be barefoot because I can feel the bones of my entire body as I walk through every single concrete of the pavement. And it's, not exactly comfortable, but I do it because it's a really nice pair of shoes. And, a lot of women are the same way. I recently saw a reel about these girls in Vancouver snow, and they're trying to wear these high heels. And my first thought was, it wasn't, wow, that's stupid. Why would you wear that? It's winter, wear boots. My first thought was, action is pain. They get that. And, speaking of self expression, let me try to talk to you through my love language. Because maybe if I talk about things from where I'm coming from and where my passion lies, it can kind of help you guys understand the higher point of what I'm talking about and to show why I'm not a grifter, because I'm actually passionate about what I'm talking about, sometimes to a very autistic degree. Imagine, if you will, a Lexus LFA. All right, one of the greatest and most beloved cars ever made. Looks beautiful, sounds amazing. It's a holy relic in the car community. Now, let's use this as a blank canvas to display our love and ability to have freedom to truly express ourselves. So let's see. Let's slam it. Deep dish rims, big wang, bedazzle it, Ford can exhaust, Japanese car. Let's give it an anime livery. Why not? Jesus Christ, what have I done? God, please never let Whistle Diesel near an LFA. I will actually commit a hate crime. See, people like to have freedom until they see someone use their freedom in a way they don't like. Call me a libertarian, because I think no one should have the power to dictate someone else's life. You don't get to tell me that I shouldn't drive and I should ride a bicycle. I shouldn't, modify my car. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. I want to do what I want to do to kind of show the world who I am, what I like, what I'm passionate about. You know what obsessed people more than vehicle modifications? And believe me, some of these communities straight up ban a lot of the modifications. Tire lettering? Nah. Wheel smoke? Color headlights? Um, and then they get upset when the car that wins the vote at the end of the meet turns out to be a stock car. Like, what you expect? It like you banned like 90% of the modifications in the game. But you know what really angers people? It's when you can't customize a car at all. You know, there's plenty of videos on YouTube about how pissed off people are about the wide body Supra. And, you know, it happens a lot more than just that, because GTA famously doesn't even use licensed vehicles. But let's talk about games like Need for Speed, Forza Horizon, Motorfest. These games use licensed vehicles. Now, I'm not going to talk about the awful to live with world of, corporate licensing, but some of these companies, their egos are so fragile, they'll sue you for modifying your own car. And if they don't find you, the police will.
Having a modified car in California be Lake. Wheels.
Put you in jail. Right away.
Air suspension.
Right to jail.
Banner.
Right to jail. Right away.
Carbon fiber.
Jail.
Tint.
Jail.
Exhaust.
Believe it or not, jail. Right away.
What is it like having modified car in California? Wheels.
Right to jail.
Exhaust.
Too loud? Right to jail. Right away. You're driving too fast? Jail. Slow? Jail.
Custom steering wheel.
You right to jail.
Front window tint.
Also jail.
Windshield tint.
Believe it or not, jail. Right away.
It's funny how you can modify your own gender, but you can't modify your own car that you paid for, you pay taxes on, you do all this stuff. But, then the government man comes and says, you can't do this, you can't do that. And, honestly, the difference is people are not cars, but people, a lot like their cars, want a canvas of free expression, piercings, tattoos, colored hair, and, people in the real world, they play video games. We all know about programmers and programmer socks. Who do you think develops games? Programmers. least said about that, the better.
I'll be standing right here in my tiny Walter Whiting.
I think maybe I said all too much enough already. And here's where I'm going with this, because what kind of additions do you think someone like that makes in a game? Right? There's the story element, there's the character customization element, and in that regard, there's a lot of modifications regarding things that didn't really exist, say, 10 years ago in a lot of video games. Things like top surgery scars, which even today kind of feel alien as a concept in a lot of video games. But, the programmer, especially the kind that wear, programmer socks, probably consider that important enough to add it to their game. If you're a programmer and you're not that kind of person, you don't have to do all that stuff. It's easy for me to talk about that stuff from a more apathetic view because the games I play don't really have that kind of character customization. A lot of racing games, they just mostly have vehicle customizations, but unfortunately, they have brought character customizations in Need for Speed, Forza, and Motorfest, and people hate that because it's not about the person; it's about the car. Um, and even then, in GTA, you have character customization, and there's a lot of clothing out there, right? If you want, you can dress up as a girl and just wear a bikini all the time. Um, I just wear the same clothes I wear in the real world. Got the cowboy hat, the red flannel, the jeans, and I even got the Timbs. It's kind of become my trademark look, both in GTA and real life. Like legit, I'm just walking around and people are like, "Yo, Garg, check it out. That person's wearing your outfit." Mind you, I'm not an especially unique person. I have a red Mitsubishi with white wheels, black hood, big wing. Daring today, aren't we? Like there's four more of those parked like next to mine. I am a lot of things. A contrarian isn't one of them. Believe me when I say that when I see a video game about Spider-Man shooting webs out of his wrist, the biggest piece of complaint I get about the game isn't how unrealistic it is that Spider-Man is shooting webs from his wrist. It's the fact that the facial structure of a character is slightly different compared to the previous game. Like, why does that matter?
In the first game, you can quite clearly see the facial model has all the traits commonly associated with traditional femininity. Rounded facial structure, full lips, large eyes and a small nose. Now compare it to MJ in the second game, and well, I think you can spot the differences. This version has a large prominent chin, a wider and stronger jawline, thinner lips, heavier eyebrows, and eyes that are proportionally smaller because the rest of her face is now bigger. In short, she's got a far more masculine appearance than before. Interesting. Or how about Aloy from the Horizon games?
Why does it matter? It doesn't really need to matter. Like, how little are your problems where that's the problem you have? Holy shit. And it's funny too, because I've seen, videos of a lot of these people talking about how they're sad and they're streaming on Thanksgiving night because their family no longer invites them to the family Thanksgiving. And honestly, almost kind of breaks my heart until I realize what kind of person they are. And I remind myself, yeah, this person wouldn't be welcome at my Thanksgiving dinner either. I love to share my, fair share of schizo conspiracy theories, but pretending that the option of surgery scars in a video game is an affront, uh, attack on you personally, That sounds awfully narcissistic.
All I'm saying is that do you not even question this? Do you really believe that you mean anything to these people? And I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just trying to make you see things clearly. I mean, what if it... Oh, God. I mean, what if it's all just a setup? No, this whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
How dare they have the audacity, the gall, the chutzpah to do this to you? The nerve of some people. I'll say it again for those in the back. People want freedom until they see someone else use it in a way they don't like. It's important to note that art is speech. Censoring art is censoring speech, and both sides typically claim the other is censoring free speech, but honestly, end of the day, both sides are guilty of it. Both sides. And now, my friends, we come to the final section. Grifters sell outrage purely because it's profitable. Criticism should be about engaging with art honestly. Movies, games, media in general, it doesn't exist just to validate your personal worldviews. They exist as a form of self expression, whether it be a single artist or a team of artists working on a single project. As far as I'm concerned, you can have just as good of a time looking at the art in the like go to the IKEA section, the one after the lamps but before the vanilla scented candles. By the way, if you're there and you know me, please get me one. I love those candles. I can't get enough of them. But point is, as far as I'm concerned, art is art, and museum art versus IKEA art is just a difference between 50 euros and a plate of gravy with horse meat on it. Like, if it speaks to you, doesn't matter if it's worth $5 or $500,000. Art is just the value we put on things, and so is the value of the dollar itself. For all I know, I'm no economist, but when it comes to movies, uh, if it doesn't suit their specific taste, suddenly it's woke propaganda. And I'm sure that word has been said so many times it loses its meaning. With all that said tonight, I will leave you guys with this. As Benjamin Franklin once said, those who would sacrifice freedom for security deserve neither.